Hi there, it's Valerie, and I'm excited to show you how to play a game of Vibes. In Vibes, in our first set, we have 200 unique cards. All cards in your intro decks can be divided up into 3 different card types. We have fishing rod cards, we have penguin cards, and we have action cards. The basic backbone of the game is as follows. Your fishing rod cards help you play penguin cards from your hand, and then your penguin cards in play help you play action cards from your hand. To do it, you use a game mechanic called flopping. All cards in play in Vibes are either unflopped, which is just regular straight up and down, like these cards, or flopped, which just means turned sideways. There are a few reasons cards might become flopped during gameplay. But the main one is that during gameplay, you can flop a card to produce the resource indicated on the bottom left corner of the card. So if we look at this fishing rod card here, the bottom left corner is a fish icon. That means you can flop it to produce 1 fish resource. If I had this fishing rod card in play, say I had 2, 3 fishing rods in play, I could flop these fishing rods to produce fish. So this would produce 1 fish, this would produce a 2nd fish, this would produce a 3rd fish. You can use your fish that you produce with fishing rods to play penguin cards from your hand. If you look in the upper left corner of your penguin cards, you'll see that same fish icon. The upper left corner of a card is what that card costs to play from your hand. So if we look at this penguin card, you'll see it costs us 4 fish to play this penguin card from our hand. It costs 4 fish, and we now know that we can produce fish from our rod cards. So if I had, say, 4 rod cards in play, I could flop them, produce 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish, 4 fish, and that means that I could play this penguin card from my hand. Now we know how our fishing rod cards can play penguin cards. Just like that, our penguin cards can help us play action cards. If we look at the bottom left corner of the penguin card, which, if you remember, indicates what resource you can produce by flopping that card, you'll see this little yellow penguin silhouette. And if we look at the cost on the upper left corner of this action card, we'll see that same yellow penguin silhouette. This penguin silhouette is a resource called Pudge. We can think of that as the embodiment of that penguin performing an action. So if we look at Not Your Keys, this action card here, it costs 4 yellow Pudge. And you'll see in the art there's these 4 little penguins playing together. We'll need 4 penguins to play this action from our hand. Let's pretend I had 4 yellow penguins in play. I would flop these. This would produce 1 yellow Pudge, 2 yellow Pudge, 3, and 4. And that produces the 4 yellow Pudge I need to play this action card from my hand. To reiterate, we flop our rod cards to play penguin cards from our hand, and we flop our penguins to play action cards from our hand. Penguins in Vibes can be in one of 5 different colors: yellow, red, blue, green, and purple. They each produce the same Pudge as their color. So purple penguins would produce purple Pudge, red penguins would produce red Pudge, etc. That means that red penguins will play red actions, purple penguins will play purple actions. One thing to note is that these rod cards are just cards face down. That's because you can play any card in Vibes face up for its cost, or face down without paying any cost at all, as a fishing rod. But before we jump in, let's address the Baron Fishpockets. There's nothing quite like the Baron Fishpockets in any other trading card game. During Vibes, you and your opponent will compete for the Baron Fishpockets' favor. In the game, the Baron can either be in your control or under your opponent's control. You'll want to get control of the Baron during the game, because you need Baron Fishpockets in order to win. To win a game of Vibes, you need at the start of your turn to have 15 or more cards in play, and the Baron Fishpockets on your side. You could have 10 rod cards, 5 penguin cards, and the Baron. Or you could have 13 rod cards, 2 penguin cards, and the Baron. Without further ado, let's play the game. At the start of the game, just like in most trading card games, you flip a coin to determine who goes first. I call heads. Looks like I win. That means I go first. And the player who goes first starts with the Baron under their control. In Vibes, we start the game by drawing an opening hand of 5 cards. Once each player has drawn their opening hand, they can choose to mulligan. You can take any number of cards in your hand that you don't like, and you can put them on the bottom of your deck to redraw the same number of cards. Remember, you can only do this at the beginning of the game, and you can only do it once. In this hand, I've got 3 pretty expensive penguins that all cost 4 fish to play. I'll put a couple of them on the bottom of my deck. Then I can redraw that many cards. Okay, let's get started. To play Vibes, you go through a series of repeating steps called the cycle. The cycle goes as follows. First, the player that has the Baron takes a turn. Then the player without the Baron takes a turn. Then we have action time, which is where both players can play their action cards and use abilities of penguins that say act on them. And then finally, we have the vibe check, which is where both players compete for the Baron's favor. We unflop all cards in play, and the cycle starts all over again. The person with the Baron takes a turn. The person without the Baron takes a turn. Action time and vibe check. Turn, turn, action time, vibe check. Turn, turn, action time, vibe check, until somebody wins the game. So without further ado, let's start the game. I've got the Baron, so I get to take my turn. During your turn, first things first, you get to draw a card at the beginning of your turn. Next, you can play up to one rod card from your hand, and as many penguin cards as you can afford. I think I'm going to play this penguin of the falling leaves face down as a rod. Okay, I can play a penguin card from my hand. I've got this penguin card right here that costs 1 fish, so I'm going to flop my rod to produce 1 fish resource, and I'll spend it on this flying penguin. This is a yellow penguin in the yellow intro deck. It produces yellow Pudge because it's a yellow penguin. And in the bottom right corner, you'll see it's got a vibe of 2. Vibe will be important later when competing for the Baron's favor. The Baron favors unflopped penguins with high vibes, so we want to have the highest vibe penguin in order to gain the Baron's favor. I could play more penguin cards if I wanted to, but I'm all out of fish, so my turn ends. Next, the player without the Baron takes a turn. They'll do the same thing, draw a card, and they can play a rod and penguin cards from their hand. Next, we've got the action time. Action time is when both players can play action cards from their hand and use abilities of penguins that say the word act on them, called act abilities. During action time, both players are going at the same time. The way it works is the person with the Baron gets to go first, then the player without the Baron, over and over and over again. Players play the actions they want into the middle of the board in a giant pile, and when everyone's done playing all the actions they want, or using act abilities of penguins, all the cards in the pile happen from the top down. During this action time, I don't have any actions that I can afford to play, and let's assume our opponent doesn't either. Finally, it's the vibe check. During the vibe check, the Baron figures out where he's going to spend the next cycle. The Baron looks for the unflopped penguin with the highest vibe and declares that penguin the winner of the vibe check. In this case, let's say our opponent didn't play any penguin. That leaves our flying penguin as the winner of the vibe check. When you win the vibe check, the Baron moves to your side, if it's not there already. We already have the Baron, so he'll just stay on our side. And the Baron gives you a prize. When you win vibe check, you get a free rod card from the top of your deck. So let's create 1 free rod. If you lose vibe check, don't worry. There's a consolation prize where you get to draw a card. If you ever forget this, it's on your playmat. If there's a tie or if there's no unflopped penguins in play, the Baron stays where he is, and there are no winners of the vibe check. No one gets any prizes, and the vibe check ends. Now that the vibe check has happened, everybody unflops all their cards, and the cycle starts all over again. Remember, at the beginning of the cycle, the person with the Baron takes a turn first, then the player without the Baron, then action time, then vibe check. If you ever forget, it's all on your playmat. And that's how you play Vibes. If you have any questions, refer to the instruction manual in your Learn to Play kit. We also have content on our website of us playing the game, so that you can get caught up quickly. Thanks for watching, and we're excited for you to play Vibes.